Are now listening to Spark FM.
Finally Home is a must-read step-by-step guide that will equip any first-time homebuyer with the knowledge they need to confidently make informed decisions. This book provides answers in simple and clear terms to most, if not all, of the questions you may have about credit, homeownership, and generational wealth. Finally Home equips the reader with the confidence to be engaged with the home buying process without feeling vulnerable or exploited. Tayla made real estate easy is not just a catchy hashtag. It is real estate agent and radio personality Tayla Andre's goal. A goal to simplify one of the most challenging processes you will go through as an adult. A goal to educate you properly on credit and teach you the strategies to finding the home of your dream. It is not just a good book or an easy read. It is the secret to a seamless home buying experience.
Igniting the airwaves. Spark FM.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. And we are discussing, let me tell you, I'm just going to go through the entire resume because there is so much here, right? So Shanel Lindsay is not only an entrepreneur, an inventor, an attorney, an advisor. She is also the founder and CEO of Ardent, which is a Boston-based biotechnology company. And she is dope. And you are definitely my crush. So I need you to know that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the lovely introduction. I'm really happy to be here today. And like you said, my whole life is cannabis.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Here we go.
Hey, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good evening or good night.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my audio, making sure that you can hear me and I can hear you.
No worries. So we can hear you perfectly fine. I promise you don't have to hold it.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Yes, I was saying that, my whole life is cannabis at this point, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So thank you for having me on, and I'm accepting all the crushing, so I appreciate that too.
Absolutely. You deserve it. And I see, is this your law degree behind you?
Oh yeah, I got all the degrees here on the wall. That's my law degree, and then my other undergrad over there. I gotta, always remind myself that I'm here to make it happen. I went through all of that to try to make an impact, and hoping I can continue to do that.
Absolutely. So we're gonna take it like from the beginning, from like when you were a child, when you were a little girl, even though you look like you still a little girl now. Let's talk about how did you want to become an attorney? Like, let's start there.
Yeah. So, and I appreciate that because I'm turning 40 next month. So I will take all of the young vibes that I can as well. But, I'm born and raised here in Massachusetts. I'm originally from Dorchester. And then I spent my young years in Mattapan, and then I lived in Stoughton and all over the state. And for me, almost everything that I do is rooted in, my growing up, and thinking, what do I want to do, and how can I make an impact? And so I always wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? And I think that a lot of kids are put into that position. Like my parents were like, why don't you become a doctor? And I was interested in that somewhat, but I was always heavy into the reading and writing. And I thought, hey, if I become an attorney, I think there's a lot that I can do with that. At first, I had this idea of, let me be this high-powered attorney wearing business suits and going and being in court. And I did do that, right? And it was cool at first, but I definitely felt like there was something missing. And I had always been interested in using cannabis first as just an adult, just as a recreational user, and then as a medical user after my son was born. And when I got the opportunity to blend those two together of, cannabis and the law, that is really when, you know, things started to take off.
Okay. So let's, as far as you said, to use it medicinally after you had your son, explain a little bit about that, because people think like, hold on, you're a parent and you smoke weed. You know, there's still a little stigmas attached.
Yeah, there's so much stigma attached, and it's funny because that is something I've been battling against since I was, you know, since I started out. So I was a mother. Not only that, I was a teenage mother. So I had my son when I was 19. And so, as you know, there's already like stigma that comes around with being a young mother, definitely stigma around cannabis use. But for me, and I was a child of the DARE, you know, era. And so I definitely always saw cannabis as somewhat negative, right? You're very much warned about it. But the first time that I ever used cannabis, I didn't think that I was using it medicinally, right? It was some friends that I was around, and I was having a bad day, and I ended up smoking. And honestly, it made me feel so much better emotionally. But also, I had a cyst at the time, and it helped that feel better as well. I didn't put two and two together of, hey, this is something that actually can help me manage my cyst, because at that point, it was just a cyst that was like coming and going. It wasn't a chronic condition. But after my son was born, I developed an ovarian cyst, a dermoid cyst, that I actually still have to this day. And it's painful, and it caused a lot of inflammation. And it was something that the doctors were prescribing me medicine that I was really afraid was going to hurt my liver long term, or be something that was going to become addictive to me. So I opted to say, hey, I've been using and smoking cannabis, you know, let me see if I can. Smoking is good, but there's also other ways for people to administer cannabis, especially if you're having issues. A lot of women have issues with their reproductive system, right? Many different issues. And if you haven't heard of it, suppositories are actually a fantastic way to use cannabis to treat a number of different, female-related issues. And so that's what I started doing, also making topicals and edibles and things like that. And I saw, oh my goodness, this is working way better than any of the things that I was prescribed. And it was something that was, you know, natural for me rather than pharmaceuticals. And so I do think that there is a lot of misunderstanding around cannabis, especially around the stigma around smoking, but that people would be amazed if they understood how many of these over-the-counter medicines and prescription medicines that they could replace with cannabis, and doing that in a more economical way, and doing it in a way that doesn't have the side effects of a lot of these pharmaceuticals that can really catch up with you long term.
Yes, girl. Yes. And so I have to first and foremost tell you that I sympathize and empathize with you. I suffered from ovarian cyst as well. I went ahead and got them like laser freezed or whatever it called. But when those things erupted, that was the most painful thing. And I gave birth. So they are extremely painful, and something that you still deal with today. Did you ever think about having them removed, laser or freeze or whatever it's called?
Yep. And it's funny because now at this point, they told me that I was going to have to get them removed when they got a certain size, and I still haven't. Now they've grown even more, so I'm at the point of probably having to have them removed. But now my son is 20 years old. So I've been dealing with this chronic condition now for 20 years, never having to use any pharmaceuticals or anything, and managing that inflammation. But like you mentioned, they're at a point now where if they were to rupture or something were to happen, then that would put me in a precarious position. So I better kind of get it taken care of. But again, 20 plus years being able to manage that and really having sometimes it's painful, and then I go and I, use my medicine, and I'm feeling much better. So that is there's a huge benefit there.
Okay, now let's get selfish and let's talk about the weed. So you're an inventor. Please tell us what it is you invented and why you invented it.
Yes. So I invented a decarboxylation, and I should have had it out here. Let me grab this over here.
No worries. Go ahead. And so for those that are just now tuning in, we are speaking with Shanel Lindsay. She is the founder and CEO of Ardent Life. She is an inventor. She is an attorney. She is an advisor. She's an entrepreneur. She Ardent is a Boston-based biotechnology company where she combined her entrepreneurial passion with the experience of practicing an attorney to affect the change in the cannabis industry to bring innovative solutions to the medical cannabis patients and the broader community of us just, everyday smokers. But this invention that she created is for decarbonization, right?
Yes, so decarboxylation, and we call it just decarb for short. And basically, when I started on this journey of going from smoking cannabis to, and let's be clear, I still smoke cannabis. There's nothing wrong with smoking. And in fact, that's a great way for a lot of people to get their medicine. But like I mentioned, sometimes if you want to get a very specific location on your body, you want to be able to make different products and use cannabis in different ways, right? Smoking is one of many, many different ways to use cannabis. You can apply it topically, you can eat it, you can put it under your tongue, you can use it as a suppository, you can vaporize, of course. But when you're trying to make cannabis products, right, there is this process of activating the THC and CBD. And a lot of people don't understand. They just think the THC or CBD is like right in the plant, and it's actually not. It needs to be heated up. That's why when you smoke, right, you're actually heating it up with a lighter. There's a reason for that, because there's a chemical process that happens to activate the THC and CBD. And in fact, when you're smoking, Tayla, you're actually like wasting a lot of that available medicine. You could be getting a lot more. Like one joint could make tons and tons of medicine, right? But for a long time, people weren't aware of and didn't realize that they were wasting a lot of that valuable THC and CBD by just throwing it in the oven or lighting it up, and when I started making these products, number one, this is back in the day. There's no legal cannabis. It's all still very illegal. It's all still very scary. And you want to make sure you're being very discreet. And you also want to make sure that you're not wasting it, because let's be clear, weed's very expensive too. And so what I found was there wasn't any consistent way to activate. And anybody who's listening who's tried to make edibles before, they know what I'm talking about. You'll get inconsistent results. It will be incredibly weak, or this one will be stronger. And what ended up happening is I ended up testing my medicine. I went out to Framingham. There was a lab, MCR Labs, and I actually started doing experiments to find the exact right time and temperature for this perfect activation. And when I found that time and temperature, I went and I developed this device. So it's a little machine that sits on your countertop, and it has these two sensors in it, and it has a thermal heater that wraps all the way around. And you put your cannabis or hemp inside of here. And basically what it does is it has this algorithm, and it perfectly heats up all of the products. And we actually call it the all-in-one cannabis kitchen, because not only does it decarb, but it also makes the butter and oil afterwards. So after you activate it, you put the oil or the butter in here, and you can make a butter and oil, or you can just take the plants out right after it's done decarbing, put it in your food. A lot of people don't know that. Like, you don't have to make a butter and oil, but also you can cook inside here. So you can make little muffins. We have all these little inserts. And so it's kind of like this easy bake oven type concept, but for adults, for cannabis, and being able to make cannabis products. So it's an upgrade from what we used to play with when we were little, but it's for a good purpose.
So as a fellow inventor, I am in baby stage. So when you went out to Framingham to do testing, that's where I am now. And so I want to talk about like process, as far as, you had this idea of eliminating the inconsistency and bringing product to market like every time this is going to be quality. So how, you went to school as an attorney. How did you all of a sudden become a chemist?
Yeah, I know. It's funny because, I had no business experience before this. And I remember in college, I went to the University of Pennsylvania. It has the best business school in the country, Wharton. And I didn't take one class there. And I'll be honest with you, I was intimidated. I felt like, by the time I got to college, people in business school, they really knew about business. And it's funny when I think about that right now. I was thinking about 19 and 20-year-olds, right? Think about what they know. Nobody knows anything. And so it definitely was an education for me, going from being a lawyer to, okay, I have this product idea. How do I get it to market? But I used all of those skills of researching. I think that was like the biggest skill to bring to the table, being able to dig in and find the information, right? So I basically sketched out, and I knew exactly how I wanted to be constructed. And I spent a lot of time doing that. I would go to Michael's craft store, and I would also go to like Home Depot and the Dollar Tree. That was like my favorite place to go and find pieces that were similar to like what I thought this would need to be in constructed. And one is like an example I use a lot is the koozie. So this has a heating element all the way around it. So I remember going and I was looking and I saw this like purple koozie and I was like, yes, that's how the heater has to be, kind of like all the way around the device, you know? And so I went and I would go to a lot of trade shows. There are trade shows that come around that are about electronics. You can go there, you can walk around, see the different kind of technologies and other things that were available. That's where I ended up finding like the heaters and the vendors for the heaters. So I would go, call them up, go down, drive down to Connecticut to where they were, show them this is what I need. Can you make this, right? So basically connecting with all these different vendors that can make the different parts, right? And I'm working with some people like in the Ukraine. I'm finding them online and having them, you know, write up the algorithm for the circuit board and really just kind of piecing it all together very much in this like Frankenstein way. And honestly, like just praying to God that when all the pieces came and I put them all together, that they would actually start working together, you know? And I never soldered anything before, but I'm here soldering, I'm burning my fingers and things like that. But at the end of the day, you know, the prototypes ended up working, and those were the first ones that I brought to market.
You made your own prototype.
Yeah. So for the first 500 of these that went on the market, I was in my living room soldering them up, putting them together, rolling, packaging, all of that before I had a factory. So
hold on. Do you have one of the originals? Like I want an original one.
Yes, and we call them the Ardent OGs because there are some people that have some of those original ones that are like, you know, those were the, you know, that was the tough time. And it's all hard, right? Business is always difficult, but in those very beginning stages where you're just like, man, I just really want to try to make something that will work. No one really believes in the idea. At that point, you know, I'm bringing this idea to market of like, hey, here's this product no one's ever heard of before. You got to convince people that it works. You got to convince them to pay you. I mean, the machine is close to $300, you know? So you have to convince them to pay you quite a bit of money to do this. And so that it was definitely an education of bringing products to market. But, and one thing I just have to say, you have to have passion for whatever business you're in, because it is, you know, there are a lot of times where I was like, this is just too much, but I love cannabis and this is just a part of my life, making these products. So in many ways, I kind of make products for me. Like this product is one that like, I wanted to have something that was able to do this. And that has been pretty successful for us. This is the second version of the device. We had a small one that we started out with, and then, you know, got factory partners, got some investment. And obviously, as you know, that's always hard as a woman, as a Black woman, you know, getting people to give you money, believe in your idea. But I was, you know, my mother was my first investor, and she took her retirement money and gave me her retirement money and put a risk on that. So obviously that gives you a lot of momentum and pressure, right, to make it happen and do that. And so this year, we've been in business for 6 years. In cannabis years, I mean, that must be like 70 years, but it has been a wild ride. And now, you know, growing this business, being successful in this business, I use the profits from this business to support our nonprofit that we have, which is Equitable Opportunities Now. And we have pushed for, you know, broader equity in cannabis in Massachusetts. Anybody who's listening should know that like there are opportunities for Black and brown people in the cannabis industry that we've fought very hard to get because, you know, as you know, our communities have been criminalized around cannabis, and now that it's becoming legal, thankfully, I'm in the ancillary side of the business, right? Like I make a product, I don't sell cannabis itself. But as you know, there's tons of stores opening up, and we have to make sure that a lot of those opportunities are going, you know, to us in our community. And so that's kind of the other side of Ardent, of getting success in the ancillary side, you know, with a product. And I really love bringing products to market, you know, and then using that success to help impact, you know, what's happening. Because let's understand, this industry is brand new. It's continuing to develop. It has a huge legacy of, you know, harm and criminalization, and how do we transform that into something that's actually going to be beneficial for us all?
And so that, I'm glad you brought that part into it, because now I'm wondering, as far as I recently read a study how the commission is bringing, minorities are being harmed, and they feel like there's a lot of harm being done to minorities, just putting them in the forthright with investors eating on the back end and leaving them, creating more harm than good, right? And so, as far as we interviewed Tito Jackson, we had a conversation with him and his business, and one of the things that we learned is like it's $1 million. Like you have to have $1 million at $500,000 liquid before you can even begin to think about being an owner of a dispensary or getting into the business. And so talk to us a little bit about these opportunities that are available that aren't going to cost us $500,000 to be a part of.
Yep, exactly. And you're 100% right. Under our medical program, you couldn't even apply if you didn't have $500,000 in the bank. And that's why back in 2015, we got together to write. I was one of the authors of Question 4 to legalize cannabis for adult use back in 2016. And so after we won and everybody, I'm sure, voted for legalization, a big part of it was, how do we take this system that was completely out of our reach and constructed to keep us out, right? Because it wasn't just that you needed $500K in the bank to apply. It was that anybody with a cannabis felony couldn't even apply, couldn't even work for any place, right? So you have this whole medical industry that came up that was literally excluding us specifically. So how do we make that different in the adult use law? Well, number one, the fees are not that high, right? And there's different tiers of fees. And then there's also programs called social equity and economic empowerment programs. So if if anybody has a Corey, if anybody's been arrested for cannabis in any way, shape, or form, if anybody who has had a parent that was arrested in any way, shape, or form for cannabis, they can actually be part of these technical assistance programs that the commission and the city of Boston have put together to be able to get technical training to get on the way to a license or to work in the industry, right? There's two different paths that they can take. So folks should reach out to the commission about that. The second part is we just got a whole new license type, delivery license type, that we fought very hard for and got exclusivity. So that means for the first 3 years of the delivery license type, only economic empowerment and social equity. So people that fall in that category, they're the only ones that are going to be able to get that license. And that was a big win. There was a big lawsuit about it, trying to push back against it. And that is, in my opinion, those programs getting through the technical assistance program and working at a dispensary, or the ownership that could come through owning a delivery license. And there are very low fees for those. It is still a challenge to get a property, right? So it's not like it's easy to do, but there are complete segments of the industry now that are preserved for equity, at least for the first couple of years.
And I know we can't go back and change laws, but is there any way moving forward so when you take a look at the businesses that are opening now, or take a look at the businesses that are having neighborhood reviews in order for them to open, a lot of them are not 50% minority, or they want to claim they're 50% minority because they're from Bangladesh. And so you personally are not affected. Your family has not been affected, but you still get to benefit because you get to claim minority. Is there a way that, I know we can't retroactive, but I want a retroactive. So like the first 3 years of a cannabis dispensary is for those that are directly or have been directly affected. Is there are there any laws or anything to make that easier for us? Aside from, yes, delivery is amazing. Lyft and Uber make a lot of money, but when dispensaries are making $1 billion, I'm like, that should have been us.
100%. And that is honestly depressing part of it, because as much as we would like to go back, like time marches on and we can't go back, right? And at this point, what we're seeing now, right? What you're seeing is you have all these dispensaries open, less than a handful are actually owned by Black and brown people. And that's the legacy of this marketplace of the bias that existed on the medical side. thankfully, there are some cities and towns like Cambridge and Somerville and even Boston, right, that have gone and said, hey, like Boston's a great example. For every non-equity, there has to be at least one equity. So it has to be 1-to-1. We're never going to actually catch up because let's remember, before the Boston Cannabis Board got seated, a bunch of dispensaries already got their approval before. But at least going forward, it's 1-to-1. And we would like to see every city and town do something like that, right? But the cities and towns have been resistant because some of them want just the richest applicant to come in. So there actually are bills pending right now in this session that would make it so that the cities and towns have to also have an equity program. Because let's just be clear, from the beginning, when we wrote the law, it was supposed to be the cities and towns and the state. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. How can you have an equity requirement at the state level, but you don't have it at the city and town level? City and town is who makes the decision of who comes and gets the license. So you have to have it there. So there is a bill pending, S72, that would clarify that, would make it clear that the cities and towns have to have their own equity program. And essentially that would force them to say, like Boston or Cambridge, okay, how are we going to address equity? Is it for the only first 3 years? Like, for example, in Somerville and Cambridge, for the first, it's just like you said, for the first 3 years, only equity applicants can be in the retail. That's it. So we'd like to see the same thing. And Boston didn't go as far. They did 1-to-1. So we would have liked to see Boston do the same thing, which is for the first 3 years. But the way that it came out in the ordinance was 1-to-1, which again is better than nothing. So it's also, I think, important to remember, out of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, about half of them still don't allow cannabis in any form. Either they have a moratorium or they have a ban. But eventually they're going to get to the party, right? And when they do, we should make sure that they have equity provisions around them. So it really is, you see, it's so hard. It's literally city by city, town by town, you got to do this fight, you know? And it's like, there's not a lot of us to be pushing this fight forward. That's why it's really important for people to be aware. Citizens have the biggest impact on this, right? In their city and town. If you live in a city or town, or you're in Boston or whatever, it's important to go and support those businesses that you want to see come to your community. Because when people are loud, and especially if it's a non-equity business, there have been some of them that have been getting rejected at the CBA. And so I think it's just a matter of being very intentional about, you know, hey, continuing this fight and push for equity, because at the end of the day, greed is very powerful. And there are a lot of people that are already making money in this industry, and they know how to lobby, and they know how to throw all that money that they made at the situation to try to make it better for them. And, you know, just like any other grassroots effort or fight for justice, there's forces on the other side that don't want to see it happen.
Mm-hmm. And to take it a step further, many of these cities and towns that prohibit the weed kind of prohibit the Black folks too, because there are Trump signs all over their front lawns. And so one of the things that Mayor Thomas just brought up was about like the question as far as Black folks are concerned, are we going to go to dispensaries, or are we going to keep our weed man? And so this is, I know it's like it's not a real question, but at the same time, it's like, it's a real question, because I have honestly kept my weed man. He grows it. I buy it. I don't go to a dispensary.
In my opinion, this is the most relevant question, right? Because our goal is to transform the weed man into the dispensary. Because like you said, meaning that anybody who's on the traditional market that wants to be part of the regulated market, that's what we're trying to do. And in our minds, if there's not a pathway for people to become on the criminalized side of things to the legitimate side of things, then you're right. People are just going to keep their weed man. Like, why would you want to support? And it's like the lottery, right? And I used to work for the lottery. The lottery, as you know, used to be a Black-owned community enterprise. And then it became a state sanctioned. And in that, what do you think happened? All of the money that was being generated in our community around that, you know what I mean, became something that was actually going back to the wealthy.
Hold on. I need you to rewind. For those who don't know, she just told y'all the whole game. Say it again.
So a lot of folks don't understand that in this country, lottery, the lotto, the numbers started out as a Black business, a Black enterprise. It was something that people were able to go and to create businesses around. And there was then that was taken from us in our communities and created into a state-run program. And when that happened, what you saw is, you can look at Massachusetts as a great example. The money that comes to the lottery primarily comes from Black and brown areas, right? And, not as affluent areas. But when the lottery money is distributed through the state, it goes to those wealthy areas, right? Disproportionately to where the money is coming from. So we don't want the same thing to happen to cannabis, which is what you see happening, right? This is an ecosystem that exists within the Black community when you're buying from your weed man or your weed woman, and then it becomes something state sanctioned, and none of that money comes back and is reinvested in our community. So when you're doing that, and in this situation with cannabis, what we're always trying to do is say, hey, not only is this something that came from our communities, but we have been criminalized and punished for this, opportunities taken from us, whether that's jobs or education or whatever, housing, money, you name it, all of those pieces, and that we're not going to let that happen, right? We're not going to then be criminalized by it, continue to be criminalized because we can't get a store, and then also be left out of the profits that are being made on the legal side. But unfortunately, that's exactly what you see happening when these equitable policies are not implemented the right way, or they're not aggressive enough.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because I don't think a lot of people knew that. I know many of us, some of us know, but not like majority don't know that.
Yeah,
it was us.
A lot of people don't understand, or, and like I said, that wasn't something I was aware of until I started working at the lottery, and then seeing behind the scenes as well how that money is distributed. So, and I think it's funny, as much as people are going to dispensaries, a lot of people are not. They're sticking with their local grower. They're sticking with Homegrown. I mean, let's just be clear. Everybody, any adult over the age of 21 is legally allowed to grow plants in their own home. Now, be clear, your landlord or whoever might restrict that, but as a general rule, everybody is allowed to grow. It's not something that is criminal anymore. And so I really encourage folks to go to dispensaries, equity dispensaries, you know what I mean? But I also encourage folks to grow at home, to understand more about cannabis. That's what Ardent's all about, of being able to make products at home, grow that at home, and just be an informed consumer about what you're doing. And I definitely encourage people to do that, because I know a lot of people are shopping at shops right now that they think are equity focused that are not. That a lot of these players, they don't have any shame, right? They will file a lawsuit against equity, and in the same breath say they support equity on all their social media when they go into their dispensary. So you really got to look behind the curtain and see, who am I giving my money to when you're going to these dispensaries?
Hey, listen, just send me a text message of who they are. I'll blast them. I know, business wise, you don't want to, burn bridges. I will burn them bitches down, all of them. And so
yes,
please tell us who is equity and who is not, so we know where to spend our dollars.
Yep, and that's an important point. So the Commonwealth Dispensary Agency, Revolutionary Clinics, Patriot Care, do not support those companies, right? But go and support Pure Oasis, support New Dia, support Just Incredible, which is a cultivator, support Elevate, and that's something we're working on as the industry, a list, right, that we can give around and support, so people know where to go, because they want, especially in this instance, they want to spend their dollars where it really does count. And again, it's also about leaving all of those people that are on, when I say the legacy market, people say black market. No. People say illicit market. No, it's the legacy market. It's the traditional market, right? And
I don't know what I did over here. I touched something and then turned on, activated some nonsense. So I got to figure out what it is I did. Oh, did I hang up on you? Is that what it was? I got you back?
Yep. Yeah.
There you are. Okay. I was like, what'd I do?
Yeah, and I was just saying we need to just make sure that, you know, we're not leaving people on that legacy market behind.
So listen, I am going to pay some of these bills. We're going to play some commercials real quick. When we come back, can we please take apart your invention? Can we take a look at like all of the moving pieces? How does it work? How can we use it? Where do we buy it? I know it comes with multiple accessories. Can we bring out the entire Easy Bake Oven so we can see all of the pieces?
Yeah, I'm gonna go grab that right now. Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pay some of these bills. Make sure you guys keep it locked because I'm excited to see this, the grown adult version of the Easy Bake Oven for weed. I can't tell you how excited I am for this whole conversation. And I'm going to get after I learn. So I just want y'all to know that 9 times out of 10, when we interview somebody, it don't even be for y'all. It'll be for me. So I'm going to learn how to use this decarb machine so I can stop wasting weed, because she just told me I'd be wasting weed by smoking it. So let's go ahead and figure out how to use it the right way. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and purchase our own so we can utilize all of the weed and stop wasting the damn weed. I am Tayla Andre, Spark FM Online. Keep it locked all day long because dope conversations, dope music, dope everything. You know who we are.
Igniting the airwaves. Spark FM.
Finally Home is a must-read step-by-step guide that will equip any first-time homebuyer with the knowledge they need to confidently make informed decisions. This book provides answers in simple and clear terms to most, if not all, of the questions you may have about credit, home ownership, and generational wealth. Finally Home equips the reader with the confidence to be engaged with the home buying process without feeling vulnerable or exploited. Tayla made real estate easy is not just a catchy hashtag. It is real estate agent and radio personality Tayla Andre's goal. A goal to simplify one of the most challenging processes you will go through as an adult. A goal to educate you properly on credit and teach you the strategies to finding the home of your dream. It is not just a good book or an easy read. It is the secret to a seamless home buying experience.
Call Spark FM at 617-272-3387. Advertise your business, brand, or music on Spark FM. Contact us at sparkfmonline.com for more information.
Be Local is a new mobile app launched by the City of Boston, designed to support local business recovery by rewarding Bostonians who spend locally. Supporting your favorite local businesses and exploring new establishments across our city, you can make a real difference. Be Local has everything you need from retail, restaurants, gyms, yoga studios, florists, and more. By simply downloading the app and linking your credit or debit card, shoppers earn rewards or Boston points automatically at participating local businesses. These rewards may then be applied as cash discounts to a growing list of redeeming businesses. All rewards are reimbursed to the business by the City of Boston, and there is no cost to users or businesses. Thanks to the CARES Act, Be Local will help to stimulate our local economic recovery across all Boston's neighborhoods. The first 3,000 users who download the app get extra points. Be Local. Download it today.
You are now listening to Spark FM.
You are tuned in to Spark FM Online. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Today, we are having a conversation with Shanel Lindsay. She is an attorney, an inventor, an entrepreneur, an advisor, and the CEO and founder of Ardent, which is a Boston-based biotechnology company. She invented this decarb machine. We are going to learn how to use it. She said it is the Easy Bake Oven for weed persons. And so we are going to learn how to use this machine. We are going to purchase this machine and we are going to stop wasting weed. And so I am going to learn all that I need to learn so I can go online and purchase mine today. And so without any further ado, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and big screen you so we can see everything and just bring us down the list. How does it work? How do we use it? What's the steps?
Okay. So first, a quick primer on cannabis, right? So here is about a half a gram of cannabis, and usually somebody roll this up in a joint or smoke a bowl or something like that. And traditionally, if you're making edibles, people would look at this and be like, "I'm supposed to make an edible with that? Like that's not enough." And with our technology, not only is it enough, it's more than enough, right? So in this, it's like 20% THC. That means if I activate it the right way, as I mentioned earlier, activating that THC, it's really in an acid form, and then you have to turn it to an active form. So that's THC or CBD. A lot of people are into CBD lately. Same thing. So when I activate this, right, there's going to be over 100 milligrams of THC. And when you think about anybody who's taking an edible, let's say your average dose, how you're supposed to start, is like 5 or 10 milligrams, right? So if somebody's a low doser, this is like 10 doses of edibles for them. If somebody's a little bit on the higher side, like 100 milligrams, this isn't a dose, right? And so for folks that make edibles, you might be surprised by that, because often an edible recipe will want you to use a ton of flower. Sometimes it even says a whole ounce. Like there's no need to use that much, because if you're activating it properly, this goes a very long way. So with the device, there's 4 different settings on this version. The original version just has one button to activate and infuse, but this has 4 for CBD, THC, and infusing and baking. So you just simply put the material right inside. There's no minimum. You can fill this whole thing up or just put a little. And that's one of the benefits of it as well. So we plug it in. It has a little base, and you press the button, and it takes about an hour and a half to activate. And it's just a gentle, very gentle, precise heating process. So when it comes out, the bud will be a little bit darker than it is, just cooked up a little bit, not burnt, just a little bit browner in color. And at that point, you could actually just take this, a little piece like this, and break it off and put it right into your food. We call that an instant edible, because you don't have to do a lot of times people get confused. They think, oh, I got to make a butter or an oil. No, you can make a butter and oil, but you don't have to. As soon as you activate this bud right here, you could just eat the bud if you wanted to. But again, a lot of people want to just like mix it with a little bit of food. So if I showed you this right here, just this tiny bit, this would be about 10 milligrams of THC. So very small. A lot of people put it in capsules on the other side of capsules. Let me see if I have some caps over here. To just easily make your medicine. Very, very simple, very easy.
Hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That little piece of bud, after being decarbed, is equivalent to how many joints?
So comparing joints to edibles is kind of like comparing apples to oranges, you know what I mean? But if you activate this and then you smoked it, you could smoke just half as much. So that's a whole nother conversation of after you activate and decarb, you can still smoke the cannabis, and it's much more potent and active for you. So you could stretch your bud and smoke less of it, right? You could smoke it. But if you wanted to make edibles, this little bit right here would make more than 10 milligram edibles, right? So think about how much that would cost at a dispensary or whatever. It really is a huge cost savings if people are making that and doing that on their own. So it would be about over 100 milligrams.
I'm in complete awe right now, because I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, weird question. So I am a stemmer. I love chewing on stems, sucking on the stems. I've never thrown a damn stem out. When you put a stem in the decarb.
Yep. Now be careful, because you put the stem in the decarb, it activates it. So now when you're chewing on that stem, you essentially made your stem into an edible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
girl, I've been wasting weed my whole life.
We're an advanced weed head class right now, right? Because like you're talking about the stems, like I like it. I really do, because can I tell you, and that's what our company is really focused on, education as well, because a lot of people were throwing out their stems. So what we did is we went to the lab. We took those to the lab in Framingham and we tested out the stems, and there's like a good amount of THC. So if you had like a gram of stems, there would be about 60 milligrams in that gram of stems. So yes, you can activate your stems, and when that comes out, so this little stem in here you could go chew on that, but you got to be careful because it's active now, right? When you're chewing on stems now, you're mostly getting the inactive THCA. So it's probably not impacting you too much. If it is, it's a tiny, tiny bit. You have to have a lot of that to have any kind of impact. But if you activate them, you got to be careful because now it's actually turned it into an edible.
Lord have mercy. I just made myself so happy today. So tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so if you scroll down, you should be able to go to all, if you would, for a minute. So I want to get that stems. You can look this up right here. If you keep going down, you will see you'll see a picture, and it has like a bunch of stems in the picture. It was a little bit ago. Yes, put out a lot of blogs. But if you keep going back, there was you might have to keep going. There was a stems article that we did specifically for this, and it was like, don't throw away your stems. And you can see we have a ton of recipes, different edibles to make, and we show you how to do all of these different edibles. You just do a search bar and search for stems for me because I know they are in here, and I don't right at the top. Yeah, there you go. Stems should bring it up. And yes, there we go. Oh, I don't know why it doesn't have a picture for some reason. But yes, go in here. How much THC, CBD is in the weed stems. And if you go down, you'll be able to see testing in this main bud stem. So you can see there's 2% THC in those stems. So that means in those stems, there would be 20 milligrams of THC in a gram. So when you're chewing each one, maybe 1 to 5 milligrams of THC in there. And then we did some CBD stems as well. So we're definitely all about not wasting any of the plant. And yeah, so this one had 6.27 in the stem. So again, very potent, right? At the end of the day. So if you had a gram of those, that would be 60 milligrams of an edible in just the stems itself. So you can see, you can make a little go a long way. And if you do want to, we suggest to people to take their stems, put them in oil or into an oil or an alcohol. And here's like our little vessel here. So you can just afterwards, you can take your bud, put it in here with the oil, stick it right back into the machine and press infuse. And then it will make that infused butter or oil that you're working with. We also have like this little French press that helps you pour it out. As you can see, these are some of our new offerings and our deals page and stuff like that. And then we also have these little inserts that you can make little cakes. So then after you make your butter and oil, I usually, when I'm making little edibles, I usually don't infuse butter and oil. That's me. That's another extra step that takes another, hour to do the infusion. I'll just activate and decarb the bud. I'll take this, I'll break it up into like my brownie mix or my whatever. I use cannabis in salads a lot. I don't feel like every edible needs to be like a sugary thing, but of course, lots of people like candy. So when I'm making edibles, I usually make like cupcakes and things for people. So you just put it in the batter, mix it up, slide it on here, and then there you go. And you pop it out, and it's 3 little cupcakes. So that's the whole idea, is that even sitting here at my desk, I'm able to make the edible start to finish, because a lot of people do want that discretion. They don't necessarily want to be interrupting or bringing edibles or making it in the kitchen, or they might not have the option to do that, right? A lot of people, if their roommates or whatever aren't cannabis friendly, or they just want that discretion, the idea is hotel room, office. Honestly, if you have a closet that has a plug, there you go. You can do everything right in there.
What is this Keeping Up with the Jones bundle? What is this?
Yeah, so this bundle is a bundle that we just put out that is see that press that is an infusion press. So just think about like a French press for coffee. So basically after you're done infusing your oil or butter, instead of having to strain it, we have these cute little funnels. But if people don't want to get their hands messy, they just put that infusion press right at the top, press it down, and it separates the oil from the bud, and then they just pour it out. And that's our new little container for the butter, so that you can make it in certain molds. And then that easily baked, the easily baked apron, we have a show. It's actually tonight. We have a show every month called Easily Baked with Ardent on IG Live. On our Ardent LLC is our IG handle. And so someone from our team goes, and actually they're going to be demonstrating that tonight. And they're making key lime pies inside the unit. So that's what the Easily Baked is. Last month it was like candy hacks. So we were teaching people how to make Nerds rope, which is like hot right now.
Hold on, and all of this is in the blog post?
Yes, this is the blog post and on the IG Live. So we do the blog post, but then we also have a live monthly show every night. So tonight, I believe it's at 7 o'clock on our Instagram, where we're going to be making these key lime pies inside the device and also showing how to, and here's our little videos, and you can go in the blogs and they have videos that break down how to make these different things in the device.
Girl, can we please, so one of the days, or can we do a recipe show? Like, can we like have a teamwork and do a recipe show on here, even though you guys do it on live?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. We can show folks how to use it, have a little, get together and, make some edibles, and we can both make it. I'll make it on my side, you make it on your side, and we can have a little party.
Listen, we need a code. Tayla needs Wake Up with Tayla Andre show needs a code so everybody can get theirs with a Tayla Andre code. Yo, absolutely. I am so excited. This is so dope. I'm about to go get mine right now. But when you get my order though, I want the OG version.
Okay. I will definitely hook you up with that, and I will get a code for the audience, and we'll continue to teach people how to make cannabis. Hey, it's not going anywhere. Cannabis is not going away. People are just going to get more and more interested in it. And you see even folks from the older crowd that like never would have thought of this, when they see that you can make a topical, doesn't get you high, right? Not at all, but helps your arthritis. Make your knee feel better, make everything feel better. Like, there's definitely a lot that people will, and I see, the cannabis, once you go weed, you never go back. So I definitely think that there's a lot that people could learn and share with their family and friends. That's the one thing that makes me happiest about Ardent, is people use it and then they share it with family and friends, and other people are like, oh, that's not as scary as I thought it was, or that's not as hard as I thought it was, because it is. And this is exactly why I made this, because before, when I first started making edibles, you would go online. First of all, people would be telling you, put it in the oven for 12 hours, put it in the oven for 4 hours. It was 20 steps to make an edible. Now it's like, you put it in, you take it out, it's an edible. Sprinkle it on. If you want to, the second step is put the oil and butter in. It's very, very simple, and it makes it so people have that confidence to be able to share that with other people. And that's, at the end of the day, our biggest goal.
Mike said he need that code. That code. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and we will get all of that together on Monday. Listen, Shanel, can we make you one of the bills? Can we get a commercial for Ardent and figure out how to get you? All of us smoke weed. Everybody tune in. We eat an edible, smoke an edible, all of that. Like, we need this in our lives. We just didn't know we needed it in our lives. And so my favorite part about this all is you're not wasting weed. Especially when I was vaping, I felt like I was wasting the weed. And so now I'm excited. We've come all the way to the top of the hour. I definitely want to keep you in my life. You've been kidnapped, okay?
Nice. And then, and we're going to start having events and stuff again soon as the world's opening up. So, we need to stay in touch, and we'll definitely get all that stuff hooked up. And then the audience will keep hearing about what's happening at Ardent. And we're also going to keep flowing that information over about where people should be going and supporting as the industry continues to develop on the storefront side, on the delivery side, because that's going to be important too. All these entrepreneurs, all these equity folks, like, they need our help and our support. And that's something that, I'm excited about.
One of the comments that came up in the stream was not only do we need to find out like where the different dispensaries are for us to support, but also different jobs that are available to us or should be made available to us to have that all in one place instead of looking everywhere.
Yes, and that's one thing Eon's working on too. And I'd love to also float over those jobs and things so you could promote them as well and let the community know about them. So we should do that. We promote them on Eon, but we're always looking for more amplification on these different positions. So let's continue to do that because they're up and running now. These dispensaries are up and running, and there is a desire to get more POC in there. And in fact, the dispensaries want that too, because we fought and we required that every single dispensary has to have a diversity plan and a positive impact plan, right? And a lot of them are trying to satisfy that by ensuring that they're employing people and things like that. So there are opportunities out there for people to get in this industry, work in this industry, and, gain an expertise.
I thank you so much for your time. I look forward to connecting with you to figure out how we can do another show where we do the cooking portion of it. And I'll be able to, I don't have a kitchen, but I'll have my Ardent. And so I'll be able to do it right here in front of you. And we can do it one together. And so thank you so much for the invention. Thank you for your expertise on the legal side, fighting for us. I don't know if y'all heard this, but she said she helped write question 4. I heard it. I heard you. I understand. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you have an amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Tayla. I appreciate it. And to everybody listening, thank you. And I hope to see you all soon.
I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up at about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Please, everything Tayla Andre, TaylaAndre.com. Social media everywhere. If you missed any of today's show, this is one that you do want to go to YouTube and re-watch immediately. Mwah.